You are not a separate creature wandering in a hostile universe. You are not a fragile accident of chance, clinging to survival. You are something far more astonishing. You are what the whole universe is doing in this very moment. These words echo like thunder through the teachings of Alan Watts, a philosopher who dared to strip away our most cherished illusions. Most of us live as if life is something happening to us, like we're passengers on a train we didn't choose, moving toward a destination we can't control. We feel divided. Me against the world, I against time, self against fate. But Watts looked at that division and said, "It isn't real." Think of it. The trees outside are not separate from the soil. The waves are not separate from the ocean. The stars are not separate from the night sky. And you, the thinker, the dreamer, the one watching this right now, are not separate from the universe that gave birth to you. You are its expression. Just as a flower blooms, just as a galaxy spins, you are a process of reality itself. But why does this matter? Because the moment you realize this, something radical happens. The pressure control, everything begins to dissolve. The endless fight with time, the gnawing anxiety of am I enough? Am I doing it right? Suddenly it all loosens. Life is not a problem to solve, but a song to be played, a dance to be danced. Alan Watts wasn't here to give you rigid answers or rules. He was here to remind you of something you already sense deep down, that you're not a stranger in this universe, but its very heartbeat. That letting go is not losing control, it's gaining freedom. And that the meaning of life is not hidden in some distant future, but shimmering in every breath, every laugh, every moment you dare to simply be. So as we step into this exploration, the Tao of Philosophy, seeing through the net, prepare to see life differently, to question the stories you've been told about who you are, and to discover that the cage you thought was locking you in never really existed. Because you are not just living in this universe. You are the universe, playing at being you. Take a breath. Pause. Look around you. The glow of the screen, the hum of the room, the quiet rhythm of your own heartbeat. All of it is part of the same unfolding. And yet, if you're like most people today, you probably feel cut off from it, as though life is happening somewhere out there while you struggle to keep up. We live in an age of constant tension. Anxiety hangs in the air like static. The pressure to succeed, to prove yourself, to keep control, it never ends. Our days are filled with checklists, deadlines, messages we can't escape. Even when we pause, there's a gnawing sense of restlessness, an unease that whispers, you should be doing more. You should be further ahead. And in that restless pursuit, we forget the simple truth of being alive. This is where Alan Watts enters the story. A bridge between worlds, a rebel against rigid thinking. He was not a monk hidden away in the mountains, nor an academic trapped in dusty libraries. He was a man who stood at the intersection of East and West, Zen and science, ancient wisdom and modern confusion. And he had the courage to say out loud what so many of us secretly feel, that the way we're taught to live, always striving, always controlling, always chasing, is upside down. Watts invited us to flip the perspective, to see that life is not a straight road leading to a destination. It's a dance, a rhythm, a play, and like any play, the purpose is not to arrive at the end as quickly as possible, but to fully experience the performance. Think about it. When you listen to music, you don't rush to the final note. When you dance, you don't aim to reach a particular step and stop. The joy is in the movement itself. Yet somehow, when it comes to life, we forget this. We treat each day as a hurdle, each year as a test, always chasing the future, never resting in the now. Alan Watts challenged that illusion. He reminded us that our deepest freedom comes not from controlling every outcome, but from letting go, from realizing that we are part of vast unfolding, not its prisoners, not its victims, but its living expression. And perhaps that's why his voice still resonates so strongly today. In a time of anxiety and alienation, Watts offers us something revolutionary, the permission to stop struggling against life and to flow with it instead. This journey you're about to take, the Tao of Philosophy, seeing through the net, is not just about understanding ideas. It's about transformation. It's about loosening the knots of fear and confusion and discovering a deeper ease within yourself. Over the course of this exploration, we will touch on the great illusions, the illusion of control, the tricks of the ego, the wisdom of insecurity. We will learn why life is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. And in the end, perhaps you'll discover something you've always known, deep down, that you are not here to conquer life. You are here to dance with it. So let's begin, not as students chasing an answer, but as fellow travelers, listening for the music that is already playing, the music of existence itself. 1. The illusion of control. We spend our lives tightening our grip, believing if we control enough, our schedules, our futures, even our emotions will finally feel safe. But what reveals a paradox? The more we try to control life, the more it slips through our fingers. True security comes only when we let go. Ego, the greatest trick. From childhood, we're taught to believe in separate I, a fragile little self that must defend, compete, and prove its worth. What's unmasked the ego as a mental trick? A mask the universe wears for play. To awaken is to see that you are not just a mask. You are the whole drama. 3. The wisdom of insecurity. We spend endless energy chasing certainty. Stable careers, perfect plans, guaranteed outcomes. Yet what reminds us? Security is an illusion. Life is change, and wisdom lies in embracing uncertainty as the very flow of existence. Anxiety dissolves not in control, but in trust. 4. The dance of life. Unlike a journey with a fixed destination, life is more like music, meant to be enjoyed, not conquered. What invites us to hear the rhythm, to move with it, to recognize that existence is not a race to the end, but a dance of infinite steps. 5. Why you are the universe. We imagine ourselves as tiny specks, strangers in a vast, indifferent cosmos. But what flips the lens? You are not in the universe. You are the universe, expressing itself as a human being. To realize this is to dissolve separation and rediscover wonder. 6. Play, flow, and letting go. At the heart of what's vision is play. To live freely is to play with life, to treat it not as a burden but a cosmic game. Flow is a natural state when we stop resisting, where action and awareness become one, and joy returns to the simple act of being. Have you noticed how tightly we cling to the steering wheel of life, as if the entire universe depends upon our grip? We live in an age obsessed with control. Control your time. Control your body. Control your finances. Control your destiny. From the moment we wake up, our days are mapped like a battlefield. Alarm clocks slice the morning silence. Calendars fill with appointments. Plans stretch into weeks, months, even decades, as though the right strategy could shield us from uncertainty. But here's the paradox Alan Watts so playfully unveiled. The more desperately we try to control life, the more it slips away. It's like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it runs through your fingers. Think of the ocean. You cannot command the waves to stop. You cannot order the tide to rise on your schedule. And yet, when you swim with the current, when you float rather than fight, you find yourself carried effortlessly. What reminds us? Life is no different. Most of us are taught to resist uncertainty, to brace ourselves against change. But what if uncertainty isn't the enemy? What if it is the very fabric of existence, the source of life's beauty? There's an old Tao story Watts loved to share. A farmer's horse runs away. The neighbors rush to his home and exclaim, "What terrible luck!" The farmer simply replies, "Maybe." The next day, the horse returns with 7 wild horses. The neighbors rejoice, "What wonderful fortune!" Again, the farmer says, "Maybe." Soon after, the farmer's son tries to tame one of the wild horses and breaks his leg. The neighbors sigh, "What misfortune!" The farmer only says, "Maybe." A week later, soldiers arrive in the village to recruit young men for war. The farmer's son, with his broken leg, is left behind. The point? Control is an illusion. Life unfolds in ways we cannot predict, and what seems like a disaster today may turn out to be tomorrow's hidden gift. Alan Watts often compared our obsession with control to playing a rigged game. Imagine watching a suspenseful movie, but before it begins, someone hands you the full script. Every twist, every shock, every ending already known. Would you even watch it? Of course not. The thrill of life comes from not knowing what happens next, and yet we try to erase that mystery with control. We live as if the script should be written in advance, forgetting that the adventure lies in improvisation. You may feel this truth in your own life. Think of all the moments you try to plan perfectly, a relationship, a career path, even a holiday, only to discover reality had other intentions. At first, it feels like failure. But when you look back, wasn't it often those unplanned detours that brought the deepest growth, the most meaningful encounters, the surprises that shaped who you are? What saw this clearly? He would say, to resist change, to try to control the uncontrollable, is to be tied to a wheel that never stops turning. Liberation comes when you realize you were never in charge of it anyway. But here's where his insight turns playful. If you cannot control life, what then? Do you give up? Do you sink into despair? No, you dance. Life, what's suggested, is like dancing to music. Nobody dances to reach the end of the song. You dance because the steps themselves are the point. And in dance, control is not the goal. Flow is. When you dance, you don't demand that the rhythm obey your command. You move with it. You play with it. You improvise within it. That is the art of living. So what does this mean for you, sitting here listening now? It means you don't have to hold so tightly. You don't have to micromanage every detail of existence, as if your worth depends upon the outcome. You can breathe. You can let go. The storms of life will come. The plans will crumble. But if you can learn to float instead of fight, to swim with the tide instead of against it, you'll discover something remarkable. The current carries you further than control ever could. Think of the times you've been most alive, laughing uncontrollably with friends, losing yourself in music, walking under a star-filled sky. In those moments, did you control anything? No, you surrendered. You let life happen. And that, what reminds us, is the doorway to freedom. The illusion of control is just that, an illusion. But seeing through it is not defeat. It is liberation. For when you stop clinging to the wheel, you notice something extraordinary. The car is moving anyway. The universe has been driving all along. And so, Watts would whisper with a twinkle in his voice, relax. Stop trying to hold the river still. It's meant to flow. Transition to next keynote. And once we loosen our grip on control, something else begins to stir. We start to wonder, if I am not the master pulling all the strings, then who am I? What is this self I've been protecting all along? This leads us directly into the next revelation. Ego, the greatest trick. Opening line. The greatest magician of all time does not stand on a stage, does not pull rabbits from hats, does not saw assistants in half. No, the greatest magician lives inside your head and has been fooling you since the day you learned to say, I. We call it the ego, that little voice that whispers, I am me and everything else is not. From childhood, we are trained to draw this invisible line. Here, inside the skin, inside this name, inside these thoughts, is you. Out there, beyond your body, beyond your control, is everything else. This division feels natural. It feels obvious. But Alan Watts urged us to look closer. He said the ego is not a thing. It's a trick, a mental construct, a mask we wear and mistake for the face itself. Consider this. You don't control your heartbeat. You don't command your lungs to breathe every second. You don't order your cells to divide, your liver to filter, your neurons to fire. And yet, without your ego, all of this is happening flawlessly, ceaselessly. So ask yourself, if you are not doing these things, who is? Watts would laugh gently and say, you are something the whole universe is doing, just as a wave is what the ocean does. But the ego resists this truth. It clings to separation. It insists, no, I am the doer. I am the thinker. I am the controller. That's the trick. The ego convinces you it is running the show like a puppet master holding all the strings. But when you look closely, you find the strings are smoke. The puppet master is a phantom. This trick has consequences. Because the ego believes itself separate, it lives in constant fear. Fear of loss, fear of death, fear of being exposed as inadequate. It builds walls to protect itself, Identities, roles, masks. I am successful. I am a failure. I am a mother, a father, a leader, a nobody. But all these IAMS are costumes. Useful, maybe. Temporary, certainly. But costumes, nonetheless. What's love to compare it to playing a role in theater? You might play a king tonight, a beggar tomorrow. But if you mistake the costume for your skin, if you forget you're the actor behind the role, then you become trapped in performance. Imagine for a moment that you are wearing a mask. At first, you know it's a mask. You can take it off any time. But slowly you forget. The mask grows heavier. It presses into your skin. It fuses with your reflection. One day you look in the mirror and think, this is me. That is the ego's greatest trick, convincing you that you are the mask, not the face. Now here's the twist. The ego is not evil. It's not a villain to be destroyed. It's a tool, a game, a role we get to play. What to smile and say. The problem isn't that we wear masks. The problem is that we forget they're masks. Think of a child playing pretend. She declares, I'm a pirate, and she believes it with every ounce of her being. But she never forgets that it's a game. She can laugh, switch roles, move on. But as adults, we cling to our roles. We cling so tightly that we suffer when life tries to take them away. This suffering comes from mistaking the wave for the ocean. The ego says, I am separate. I must survive. But reality whispers, you are not separate. You are the flow itself. What's compared it to music? Each note feels distinct, but together they create melody. You are a note in the symphony. Unique, yes, but inseparable from the song. The ego forgets this. It hears only itself and misses the orchestra. So how do we see through the trick? Not by smashing the ego, not by hating it. That only gives the trick more power. Instead, we notice. We laugh. We see the mask for what it is, a performance. The next time your mind screams, what will people think of me? Pause. Ask yourself, who is this me I'm so worried about? The next time you feel envy, shame, pride, or despair, pause. Ask yourself, which mask is speaking? And in that pause, a door opens. You glimpse the truth beyond the trick. Alan Watts often told his students, ego is nothing but a social convention, a symbol of yourself. Don't take it so seriously. Remember, you are the universe playing hide and seek with itself. Think about that. If the ego is a mask, then life is a play. You are both the actor and the audience, both the mask and the one laughing behind it. When you see this, something miraculous happens. Fear loses its grip, because masks can be worn lightly. Roles can be played joyfully. And when the curtain falls, when death comes, you realize it's not the end. It's just the actor stepping off stage. The ego's greatest trick is convincing you that you are only the mask. The greatest freedom is realizing you never were. Transition to next keynote. And once we see through the mask of ego, we face an even deeper mystery. If I am not just this little me, then what am I? What is this vast, interconnected dance I belong to? This brings us to our next revelation, the dance of interconnection. And so, what have we uncovered? We began with a shock, the possibility that reality is not what we thought it was. We peeled back the layers of illusion and saw the first trick. The ego, that tiny voice claiming to be the master, when in truth it is only a mask. Then we looked deeper into a great web of interconnection, where every breath, every star, every heartbeat is part of the same vast dance. This is the truth Alan Watts wanted us to see. That reality is not something happening to you. Reality is something happening through you. The trees are not outside of you. The rivers, the clouds, the sky, the people you love, they are not separate from you. You are not a lonely observer standing apart from life. You are life. When you walk in the forest, it is not you in nature. It is nature walking in nature. When you breathe, it is not you taking air. It is the cosmos breathing through lungs shaped from stardust. And suddenly, the fear begins to dissolve. Because how can you be lost when you are the very flow itself? How can you die when the wave that falls back into the ocean was never separate from in the first place? Alan Watts once said, You are an aperture through which the universe is looking at and exploring itself. And that is the gift. That is the wonder. So let the ego play its games. Let the masks come and go. But never forget, behind the role, behind the face, behind the eye, there is the infinite closing call to the viewer. If these words stir something in you, it's not because they are new. It's because deep down you have always known. You have always felt the pulse of something larger, whispering in the silence between your thoughts. The truth is not out there, waiting to be found. The truth is you, right here, right now. So when you step back into the noise of life, remember this. You are not a fragment. You are not alone. You are the universe playing, dancing, unfolding in the form of you. And that, my friends, is the greatest liberation of all.